Hello, good evening, welcome to the Rangers Rabble. I'm joined tonight by Wilf, Ross and Stevie. Gents, how are you?
Not bad.
Alright, Alan, thanks.
Good guys, Ross, good. So, we're here to talk about the Dundee preview. Big game tomorrow up at Dens Park. Couple of other bits as well to talk about. But before we go any further, I think I need to point out that big night tonight for the Rangers Rabble. It's our 50th live weekly pod. So well done to everybody involved in the pod, and a big thank you to everybody who tunes in weekly and regularly. Everybody who's subscribed to the Rangers Rabble, everybody who follows us on social media and has signed up to Patreon. We're edging closer and closer to our 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, folks. So if you've not already done it, hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost a thing. And if you really love the content, there's loads of content over on Patreon as well, £2 a month. So get over there. But thank you for supporting us through these 50 podcasts. And here's to the next 50 and many, many more. And we hope you enjoy the content. So another big milestone as well. I'm going to start with, you'll have seen it on the social media today, that it is a certain Ali McCoist's 59th birthday. And I have to mention it because he was Mr. Rangers for me growing up. So a very happy birthday to Ali McCoist, the all-time top goal scorer at the club. Guys, I'm going to ask you, I'll start with Stevie. What's your favourite Ali McCoist memory?
Well, every time I see him, I always get goosebumps. But my favourite ever moment was my first time at Parkhead, when he scored his last goal against them in the Scottish Cup semi-final. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, I remember that game well. It's a shame how that Scottish Cup campaign ended, but I do remember it well. Ross, favourite Ali McCoist memory?
Winching Mark Hateley.
I'd forgot all about
that. And also it's the womanising for me, mate. I'm not about the scoring on the park, I'm about the womanising. But it was really good on a question of sport as well for a while. It really held that show together. What's some of the best performances?
What a hero, put it about and went on question of sport. And well, I'm not going to. We'll see what I was going to say there.
What you don't realise is that's actually why I got the perm. It's a throwback to Ali and his early career.
Wolf, favourite Ali McCoist memory?
Well, one of my favourite memories is one I don't like bringing up because we actually lost the game. His first Old Firm game was also my first Old Firm game, and he scored after 27 seconds at the Chamber of Secrets. And we went on to lose the game 2-1, sadly. But I mean, that's as your man's saying there, Leeds United. I mean, that goal he got at Leeds, just phenomenal. I've probably one of the best goals I've seen him score, and I've seen him score a few. But a phenomenal striker.
Yeah, absolutely was. For me, he was Rangers growing up. Folds, you said it in the comments, if I can find it, this is my favourite Ali McCoist moment. The overhead kick against Hibs at Celtic Park to win the League Cup. Came off the bench. I think it was Stewart Robertson took the throw and flick on for Hateley.
He'd been out for weeks. That was just coming back from injury.
Yep.
And it was written in the stars. It had to be him that scored that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single person wanted to be him when they grew up. I still do, because he's on that talk sport with that Laura Woods every week.
Aye, luckiest man to come out of Scotland. Anyway, so happy birthday, Ali McCoist. That's our favourite memories of McCoist. Tell us what yours are in the comment. See if there's anything in there that we can't remember. So before we go on to the Dundee preview, there's a couple of things I want to bring up. The first one is the news broke just before we played Livingston on Wednesday night that Glenn Kamara signed a new contract. He's 25 years old. The contract will keep him contracted to Rangers until 2025. I choose my words carefully there for a reason that I'll come to. But Wilf, is this obviously is good news, but how much good news is this for Rangers? Does this protect one of your key assets?
It absolutely does. I mean, it means that if he goes, and I fully expect him to go at some time during that contract, he'll go for decent money. He'll go for the sort of money that we think he's worth. I mean, there may or may not be a clause in there. There's rumours that there's clauses in there about what he can go for, but I'd be surprised if there's any player these days that hasn't got a figure that will trigger a release clause or whatever. But yeah, I think it's good for him because you'll get a pay rise. I mean, I don't think from the sort of what the word on the street that I don't think he was one of the highest paid players at the club because he hadn't really had a new contract since he joined us. So he'll have a few extra quid in his bank account every week. And because he's got the extended contract, if somebody comes in to buy him, they have to pay what they want to pay plus the extra on the contract. So yeah, it's a win-win as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. Ross, as Wolf touched on there, is this more about making sure we get top dollar for one of the best players that we've had for several seasons, other than trying to keep him here for the next 4 years?
I think I think it's about protecting the asset. But the way I look at it is, see, come December, he could have signed for anybody for free. Yeah. So what you've essentially done here, I said it on Twitter the other day, you've signed a £20 million player who could have went away for nothing, and you've signed him, and he wants to stay here. And he's obviously, you see some of the videos in that come out when he signed. He's obviously got a right good bond with the likes of your Basses and Aribos, and they seem to get on well. So see, having the kind of wee groups within the bigger group, I think that's made him want to stay as well. I don't know how much he's worth, but I wouldn't be looking to sell him for any less than 20. So what you've done is you've put 20 million in the bank by giving him an extra, as Will says, couple of grand a week.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I wouldn't sell him for any less than 20. I've seen people banding the figure 30 about, but certainly he's certainly a £20 million player. As Curry Muncher said, if he was in any other league, we wouldn't accept any less than £20 million. Stevie, just on the chat of signing contracts, Kamara's now tied down. Does that make it more worrying, the Connor Goldson situation, or have you resigned yourself to the fact that we're going to lose Goldson?
I still believe he will. Yeah, I think he'll still sign a new deal. I know a lot of people think that he won't, but I still firmly believe he will sign a new deal. I think he's happy here, and I believe his wife is giving birth again, so they're settled up in Scotland. Does he want a wee crack at the Champions League if we win the league this year? Maybe. So that's one thing that will play a big part in his contract.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the possibility of the Champions League's a big draw. He's not going to get that. A lot of the players we've got aren't going to get that. Certainly, if they move down to England, they're not going to get that at least next season. So that's a big draw for players like that. And I don't know if Goldson's got ambition to maybe make an England squad at some point, but the only way he's going to do that is playing at the top level, and he's got to be doing that in the Champions League. Keeping on the subject of transfers and contracts, the news broke today that allegedly a fee has been agreed with Roma for Yanis Hagi. £17 million, €20 million. Ross, if it's true, do we grudge Hagi this in any way if that's the move he wants to make?
It's the model that we need to employ, innit? Sign a so-called wonder kid for $3 million and sell him for 4 or 5 times your money. That's what our model's going to be. It's why we've got Ross Wilson in there working under Gerrard and his team. And for me, the identity people say about your Hagis, and the next Hagi must be there waiting. Mm-hmm. Sorry, my wee dog's barking and my buzzers went. The next Hagi must be there and waiting. 2 seconds. Is your mum later on?
Get her on the podcast.
Tell her
I've lost my food now. What was I talking about? I'm lumber on here. No, if Hagi for me, I forgot what I was saying. You'll need to go to somebody else, mate. I've made an asset.
Thank God this isn't live. Stevie.
I've laid it out.
Stevie, it's obviously, it would be, I think for Hagi, it would be seen as a big move. He's going to a big league. He's going to one of the biggest teams in that league. Been linked with Sevilla and Lazio in the past. But Roma, would the Puli Roma working under Jose Mourinho, would that be too much for a player like Hagi?
Well, it depends, really. I think he might get pushed out. If the money's right, Rangers might turn around and go, listen, you're on that flight over to Roma, type of thing. Because it's too good money to turn down, in my opinion. If it is the 17 million, which I doubt there is that bid there, and I doubt he has signed the contract. But I think it would be too good for us to turn down. So I think he would get pushed out rather than his opinion.
Yeah, And Wilf, just the last thing on the Hagi situation, he was asked about this today in the press conference, and he gave a very generic answer. I'm here to focus on Rangers, the next game, kind of thing. It's exactly the kind of answer you would expect for a player. I don't know why the press even bother asking these types of questions, because it's exactly the type of response you would expect. But do you think maybe that even if nothing's been formally agreed yet, do you think Hagi's the type of player that he said might be turned if there's a concrete offer like this came in?
I don't think he said he'll be turned. I think he's too professional for that. But as you rightly said in the press conference, the transfer window's closed, so there's no point even speculating about it at the moment. Yeah. It just seems that this rumour's come out of Romania now. Hagi's a god in Romania, and they'll be hurt that he was at Fiorentina and he really didn't cut the mustard out there, so they'll be desperate to get him back to Italy to prove that he can do it. And it's probably also easier for Romanians to watch Italian football than watch Scottish football, I would imagine. And given that he is massive over there, they'll want to get their eyes on him as much as they can. And as I say, I don't know how easy it is for Romanians to watch Rangers, but it's certainly a lot easier for them to watch Serie A. So they'll maybe try to push it to get him to where they want him to be.
Yeah. Gross CGM makes an interesting comment. I'd rather sell Aribo over Hagi. Who would, if you had to pick somebody to sell, who would it be? Would Hagi or Aribo be the ones that go out?
If it's Aribo worth 17 million, is somebody going to offer you 17? That's the difference. Every player's got their price. For me, if you get 17 million for Hagi, you're laughing. If you get offered 17 million for Aribo, you'd be laughing. If you said to me what one of the two would I rather lose, I don't know. I think the two of them play a very specific role in the team, and I think that the two of them are worth their weight in gold to our team when it comes to creating chances against packed defences with their skills and their ability.
Yep, and Falsey coming in with a comment there, Steve. I'll take this to you. I hate the fact all the talk is constantly about players leaving. With the champions now, talk should be about marquee players coming in instead. I personally think Falsey, he's got a sort of point there that we should be talking about players coming in, but is this just a signal of where Rangers are at right now as a business, not a football club, but as a business? I just spat over my keyboard there. That was disgusting. Sorry if you saw that.
It's the model that we are trying to build as a club. We've not got the money at the Premier League, etc. Of course, so we have to sell players. We are a selling club. So it's how we develop these players so that we can get the best money for them. That's just the way it is, and that's why we always get linked with players leaving instead of players marquee signings coming in.
But you say that, Stevie. You say we're a selling club. We say we're a selling club, but at the moment we're not a selling club because we've never actually sold anybody.
And I actually thought in the summer there we would have sold somebody, but obviously we're trying to keep everyone in together. So it's a weird one, but I think we will eventually start selling players.
Yeah, I think as we said before, Alan, I think it's a weird summer because with the whole kind of season behind closed doors for everybody with the pandemic and stuff, there was very little movement in the transfer market at the level we were looking at. Mm-hmm. We'd been looking to push players out 15, 20, 25 million. There wasn't a lot of those transfers going about. There was the big £100 million moves, but there was nothing at a level that would really have affected us, not just with us, but with anybody. So, although this is the summer, we should have been becoming a selling club, if you like. I think COVID has probably pushed that back a year.
Yeah, I mentioned it through podcasts throughout the transfer window. We were all expecting somebody to go and somebody to go for big money, and it wasn't coming, and it was frustrating. It wasn't coming, but it was almost like torture. It was almost like we were being tortured at times. It got to the stage where I was willing a transfer to be made, just so it was over and done with. But you're right, we're keeping the core of the squad together. We're keeping the core of the squad together, and I think that's good. It's only good. It's only going to be good for us going forward in Europe and us going forward domestically as well. Right, we'll move on. I want to stick with what we spoke about in the transfer window. Sorry, not in the transfer window. In the press conference today, Ryan Kent and Ryan Jack were both mentioned. I think we've lost the Ross. Anyway, Ryan Kent and Ryan Jack were both mentioned. So, Stevie, Ryan Kent, he's going to be back after the international break, but he's going to miss some pretty important games between now and then. I think I wrote it down if I can find it yet. Dundee, Sparta Prague, and Hibs. We're going to lose him for those 3 games. So, who's going to step up? Who's going to step up and fill those boots, especially the Sparta Prague game where you would expect Kent to have a massive game?
He's good. He is obviously a big miss, but I think we have got the players there that can step in. I like the front 3, the second half against Livingston there. It was Roof, Morelos and Hagi. If we can keep the 3 fit during this period, it will be alright, but obviously still a big miss because he will play the games.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also as well, he does need a break because he's not been hitting the heights that he should be this season.
Yeah, he's a massive player for us, and he's one of the players when he turns up and plays, we're unplayable. But certainly, I mean, for me, I'd like to think we'd get by Dundee without him. Away from home, we should get by Hibs without him away from home, but the Sparta Prague game. Yeah, we need our best players. A couple of people have mentioned it in the comments, Ross. Is Scott Wright the man to replace Ryan Kent out in that wide role?
Got his chance the other night and couldn't trap a bag of cement again. That's the thing with being in this team. I know the boys came for Aberdeen and they need bedding in time, but he's had his chance again and he's no cut and mustard. So for me, no, at the moment he's not the man because he had his chance and never took it. So who's in next, as you say, when you've still got a front 3 where you can have players like Sakala, Roof, Hagi, Aribo supporting Morelos, then for me, Scott Wright's not done enough to break in front of the kind of guys.
Yeah, I tough to agree with that. Well, I like Scott Wright, I'm a Scott Wright fan, but I don't think he's done it, first of all, consistently enough, and second of all, in the big games enough, and certainly what we've got coming up, Sparta Prague and Hibs, let's face it, Hibs at home's a big game at this point of the season. Has he just been too inconsistent for us? Yeah,
as Ross said, he got his chance the other night, didn't take it. He's done well coming on as a sub when the game's been going well. When he first came into the team, when we signed him in January, we were absolutely flying, and he came into a team that was flying, and he looked really, really good. But yeah, I think I would still have him on the bench, have him in the squad, bring him on if need be. But we don't even yet know what Sakala's got. So maybe we've got to give Sakala a shot because we've hardly seen him.
Yeah.
Janino Bakuna, he could possibly come in and play. We don't know because again we haven't seen him. So it's none of them can replace Ryan Kent. I mean, Ryan Kent's a bit of an enigma. I mean, he's when he's on form, he's fantastic at what he does, and we've got nobody that can match him. And he is one of those players that you realise how good he is when he's not in the team.
Yeah. A lot of people agree in the comments. JD, Scotty Cameron, and Curry Muncher that Scott Wright, he's an impact player off the bench.
I think Curry Muncher's stalking me because I was just on Blue Heart 1872 and Curry Muncher was commenting on that as well. I think he's stalking me. I'm getting worried.
Either that, he just knows he's good podcasts. I'm confident he's a man of good taste. So Scott Wright, impact player on the bench. It's interesting you talk about Sakala. We need to see him more. We need to see him get a run of teams in the game, a run of games in the team. And we need to find where his best position is as well. In the same way, Bakuna, Stevie, we've not seen enough of him to determine what his best position is going to be. But from what you've seen of him early on, what would you think his best position is?
It's difficult to say because he's only played about 20 minutes for us combined. Probably that Aribo role where he's the number 10 in the 3. But it's hard to tell after 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's hard to judge. I just wanted to put you in the spot more than anything else, to be honest with you. Sticking with the press conference, the last thing I've got for the press conference that I picked out, Ryan Jack, Ross, been missing since February. We're now being told, we've been told a couple of things about Ryan Jack, but we're now being told that he's going to be back training any day now. What that means, I've no idea. And it'll be back with the first team in a couple of weeks. Do you think that's an honest answer? Do you think we're going to see Ryan Jack at any point, anytime soon?
Christmas, innit? He's going to need to go through. He's been missing for nearly a year. He's not going to be up to speed till nearer Christmas time for me. I love the guy. I talk about him on here all the time. I think no one else in our team does the job that Ryan Jack does. And by that I mean covering the wing backs effectively, both sides, filling in, just slotting when they go, reading the play. But again, if it's not happening for him, and this injury is worse, then as I say, he's been out that long. You're talking about a mini pre-season for him, and then to try and break into the team and get up to speed when you've got European games and stuff on, potentially nearer Christmas for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. By the time he is training again, it's going to take weeks for him to get up to any kind of fitness. And Scotty's right, Scotty Cameron's right. Again, it's a Jordan Rossiter all over again. We've been saying it for weeks. It feels like we've been getting told for weeks that he's going to be back training in a couple of weeks, and it's not happening. Wilf, is it commonly agreed that Jack makes Tav a better player, or do you think there's people dispute that?
Jack makes the team better. Whether he makes Tav a better player as an individual, difficult. That's down to personal opinion. But he certainly makes the team better. I mean, we hardly lose a goal when he's in the team just because of the way he plays. I mean, when Jack's in the team, Tav goes forward, Jack goes back. Because Jack made the Scotland debut as a fullback. Mm-hmm. You know, so he's not adverse to going back there when somebody goes forward. We don't have anybody else in the team like him. He's different class at what he does. The problem is he's never fit. And we need to get him fit. And as Ross says, it isn't going to be this calendar year we see him, because if he's back on the grass on Monday and he's training with the first team in a couple of weeks, he's then got to do all his pre-season stuff and his loading and things. You'll be lucky to see him before Christmas.
Yeah, I think everybody's agreeing with that. It's going to be, we're not going to see him playing for the first team in October, that's for sure. And we'll see what happens after that. I think his contract's up at the end of this season, unless I've read that wrong. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen, because if he's not recovering fully for this injury, he may very well get moved on, Stevie, because he's the type of player, because he does make the team better, and I think everybody agrees that we need him playing week in, week out. It's no, I don't want to say no good enough because that's harsh on him, but it's not acceptable that he'll play 3 or 4 games and then be missing for 3 or 4 games, is it? Or can we have a passenger like that because he's so good?
No, really, because if he's not got to stay fit enough, there's no point keeping him there in a way. If he can, I think he's been with us for 4 years now, and every single season he's been playing 4 games. Then he's injured for 4 games or 4 months, basically. There has got to become that point that we have to move him on. If his contract is running down and he's not played enough games, that's the harsh reality of it.
Yeah, I think everybody's in agreement with that as well. It's one of the things, we all love him, but if he's not going to be playing, then we'll move him on. Anyway, as for us moving on, a couple of very small subjects I want to bring up. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it, but I also want to hear the thoughts of the people in the comments. So the first one I'm going to bring up is, it's been in the news again today, talking about the return of safe standing sections. Ross, what's your thoughts on safe standing, and will it fit in at Ibrox?
I think it's only really going to be a bit big enough for the Union Bears, isn't it? It's not going to, we're not talking about mass amounts of spectators standing like the good old days. I think for me, the systems, is it in Germany, they've got the systems where for some games they can slide the chairs back in, so other times it's standing, kind of hybrid, a section like that. Would that maybe work? I don't know. But for me, if you've got a group of people who are hoping to come into Ibrox and are willing to stand and sing and make the place can be like a morgue sometimes, let's be honest. If you're prepared to give, I believe as well the Union Bears should now be moved out of the wee corner they're in and given a more substantial area, maybe behind the goals or somewhere where they can be seen and heard and go around both sides of the stadium.
Yeah. Wilf, would you agree with that? Is it time we first of all had a safe standing area, but the Union Bears were moved into it, and you could essentially have that as your trial area, see how it goes, and you can make it bigger and people can move to it and if they want.
I think, as I said across on Blue Heart a bit earlier, I can understand why people you know, of an older generation don't really want it to come back because you know, it was after the Ibrox disaster. We went all seated and things like that, and that's now in the past. But yeah, I think safe standing would work because the way the rail seating is, you know, you're not going to get the mass sways that you had before. You know, back in, I mean, you lads are all far too young to remember. Apart from you, possibly, Alan. You know, to remember. I mean, I don't remember Ibrox was terracing, but I certainly remember going across to the East End and over to Hampden when it was terracing, and there's tens of thousands in there, and you score a goal and you end up 30, 40 yards from where you started, and things like that. You know, It can't return to that because the way real seating is, you're basically penned in. You can't move from what I've seen of it on the continent. So I think it would work, and as Ross says, yeah, give it where the union bears up. I think if Rangers do it and embrace it properly, there would probably be the appetite for the bottom of the Copeland and the bottom of the Broomlawn to be safe standing. I think there would be enough people wanting to do it. The problem you've got then is there's people that have sat in seats in both those areas since they became seated with season tickets. How do you get them to move?
Yeah.
You know, that's going to be an issue for the club.
Yeah, what difference does this? See the railings that the likes of Celtic have got it, and I think Man United have got it. What difference is there between that and the seats currently? Like, is there more space or that?
No, basically, where the seat folds up, and there's a rail in front of every seat, right. Which means effectively there's a rail behind you as well because it's the front of the seat behind you. So you can't have the sway, you can't move about, but it's, as I understand it, every safe standing space is also a seat, so it doesn't give you any more of a capacity.
So it's just something to hold on to, basically.
Basically, something to hold on to so you can't fall forward. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I don't think it'll increase capacity or give you any more. It'll be done in this day and age. It will be done in the safest possible manner, and quite rightly so, because we wouldn't want to see a repeat of something like Hillsborough or the Ibrox disaster. So we'll move on from that. I just wanted to touch on that quickly. Another thing I want to touch on very quickly is the news that the government are looking at setting up policies to ban betting logos on football shirts and stadiums, anything to do with football. Ross, you any thoughts on that?
As somebody that's quite public about my struggles with addiction, with drinking drugs, I think to myself, it can only be a good thing if people are, if you're a gambler and you're watching a game of football and you've got an advert every time a player scores or every time a chance is missed, you're seeing 32 red, you're seeing whoever, Paddy Power. It could be a trigger for somebody who's got a gambling addiction, especially when they're watching a sport and there's so much in-play betting and stuff going on. It really is a big business, and it's not even just on strips, it's all over the hoardings. As soon as your Sky Sports goes to half time, the first advert that comes on is a Paddy Power telling you about the next goal scorer and the odds. So as somebody, as I say, who struggles with addiction myself, who has struggled in the past, it's something that I could understand. If you're a gambling addict, it would be a welcome thing.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Ross, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. I know it's not always the easiest thing to talk about, so I do appreciate that. Stevie, football has got a massive reach globally, so does football have to, as a sport in general, not just Scottish football, you know, the FA, the EFL, whatever, but football in general, does it have to stand up to its responsibilities, its social responsibilities here, and take a stance on gambling? I understand that will have financial impacts and loads of things, and that's another conversation for another day. But socially, does football have to accept its social responsibility?
Absolutely, but at the end of the day, all these clubs and that, all they care about is the money. You know, if these sponsors are stepping up and offering that money, that's all they see. But they should be looking at diverting away from all these sponsors for the benefit of it.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog's just climbing over the furniture behind me. Just the last thing on the sponsorship thing, Wolf. I was listening to Talk Sport today, and I was hearing that a lot of, I didn't know this, but a lot of the English clubs, the Premier League clubs who have betting companies' logos, a lot of these websites, people in the UK couldn't log on and have a bet. They're directed at people in the Middle East, in the Middle East, and the Asian market. That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about, the global reach of football. Do we think we need to see, is it about time we saw a return to local companies sponsoring the local football clubs? And I'll use, for example, Newcastle Brownhill sponsoring Newcastle United for years. Is it time we need to go back to that and football clubs giving a little bit back to their community?
I don't think we'll get back to that because there's too much money involved. But I can shed a bit of light onto the gambling bit if you give me a couple of minutes, because I was just on another podcast before I came on here, and one of the guys on it was Paul Fox, who lives in Manila, and he's the managing director of MansionBet, who used to sponsor Spurs, and apparently all these or still sponsor Spurs. I'm not sure if they still do, but they certainly used to. And he was saying that all these sponsorships and shirt sponsors and adverts and things like that, right? All they're interested in, as you said, is the Far East market, right? They don't care about the British market, because I mean, if you watch a Premiership game, all the tracks are advertised in Chinese or Japanese or whatever it is, because that's all they're interested in. And all these gambling companies are based where he lives in Manila, because Manila's the only place, the Philippines is the only place in the Far East that is legal to have a betting company, which I found quite bizarre. But he said what Paul was saying on Blue Heart was that the first thing that he thinks is going to change, it won't affect Rangers, because we're sponsored by a company that's based in Europe. The parent company of our sponsors are Scandinavian, so they've got a license to operate in Britain. Whereas all these other companies that sponsor like Dafa Bet and ManBet and everything else, they've all got what they call white labels that they get from the Isle of Man, which means which allows them to sponsor clubs in Britain. And he thinks that the word on the street is that they're going to close that loophole, so they can't get a kind of white label ticket from the Isle of Man. So that'll preclude them from sponsoring clubs in Britain, which means that takes that revenue away, whereas we'll still be okay because we're sponsored by a company that's got a license to operate in Britain. So like your Ladbrokes, your Valley Hills, your Paddy Power, they've all got licenses to operate in the UK. So anybody that's got them as a sponsor initially will be okay, because they're allowed to. It's all these ones that are targeting the Far East, because they're going to Isle of Man for their license. The word is they're going to be closing that loophole, so they can't do that anymore.
Yeah, it's probably a loophole that's needing closed, and but as I say, we could probably do a full pod on it and break it down a little bit further. But I just wanted to touch on it very briefly. So moving on back onto the football side of things, League Cup draw was made last night. We will be playing Hibs weekend of the November the 20th and the 21st, and the League Cup semi-final. So I apologise. Wouldn't be a Rangers Rabble podcast without a Doug gone mental. So Hibs League Cup semi-final draw. Stevie, is that the best draw we could have hoped for?
The hardest draw we could have got, first against second currently. It'll be a hard game for us.
Yeah, sorry. Wilf, we obviously know the other tie as well is going to be St Johnstone Celtic. Is it going to be better to get this one out the road, because Hibs are doing so well just now? We play them in the league before that as well. If we're going to win the League Cup, are we going to have to beat Hibs to do it?
Well, obviously we're going to have to beat Hibs to do it, because we've got them in the semi-final. But you get to the semi-final, there's no mugs in the semi-final. It's 90 minutes. Even if there's an unfancied team there, it just takes a bit of luck going their way. So we have to win this trophy. Whoever we get, if we get past Hibs, whoever we get in the final, we have to win this trophy. Simply because our record in domestic cups recently has been nothing short of an absolute disgrace. We've only been to one final, since the current management team came in, and okay, we played well, but we lost it. You know, our cup record's been ridiculous. I mean, we're even letting 6'5" guys dressed in bright green strips nearly score against us. You know what I mean? Just mental, absolutely crazy. You know what I mean?
Don't, man.
You know,
don't.
but
Well, Connie Muncher made a great point there, and I'm going to take it to Ross. We get St Johnstone in the final. Ross, how good would it be to get some revenge on them?
It would be brilliant. Obviously, that's the tie I'm hoping for. To be honest, I think St Johnstone are the team I hoped we would avoid based on the fact that they just dig in. They know how to get results in cup competition. But hopefully, I'm pretty confident that they'll take a result for Celtic. I'm confident we'll take a result for Hibs, and then I'm confident that at the end of the final, the big man will be sitting in the centre circle in tears for a different reason this time, and I'll be cheering because at the end of the day, he's had his time to shine, and as Will says, we really need to buck our ideas up in the cups. We've got to get silverware. I seen somebody saying the other day about the champions again, ole chant, and keeping it going. But that's last season. That's done now. As Will says, we've got to look forward to this season, and what we've got to do is build on last season. We've had a rickety start, going and winning that first cup, and getting that monkey off our back as well could be the making another great season.
I always felt the League Cup, winning the League Cup always gave you that boost to go and win the league as well, psychologically. It gave you that winning feeling. A lot of the new players coming in, they get to know what it feels like to win something, and then it gives you that wee spur on to win the league as well.
Yeah. When I was a boy, the League Cup was the Rangers Cup. We won it all the time. You know what I mean? We very rarely didn't win it. You know what I mean? All the time we won it.
Was there a League Cup when you were a boy?
Aye, cheers, mate. It came in 1947, so yeah, I just about was there at the start. Aye, thanks.
Yeah.
Will used to be the guy that done the slate. See the guy that it was actually slate they used to carve with a big.
Aye.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's always been a massive competition in our history, and it probably always will be. So it'll be great to get the monkey off our back for cups, and the League Cup is the one to do that for me. Just a wee side note for the League Cup, in case anybody missed it, we have had a fixture change because of that League Cup semi-final draw. Funnily enough, St Johnstone, so we'll now play St Johnstone at home at Ibrox, obviously, on the 15th of December, and that'll be a 7:45 kick-off. So in case anybody missed it.
Which I don't know if anybody's realised, but if the semi-final results go the way that we want them to go, that means St Johnstone twice in 4 days in Glasgow, because the final's on the Sunday.
Yeah.
That sounds like a couple of match warns for the collection, boys.
So if anybody missed it, home fixture change because of that. Anyway, I said way back at the start of the pod that we were here to talk about Dundee and our big game tomorrow. So Dundee at Dens Park. Just a couple of quick notes I made in Dundee for anybody that wasn't aware, or just a wee snapshot of who we're playing tomorrow. So they're sitting bottom of the league. They've played 6 games, no won any. They've drawn 3 games, all at home, and they've lost all 3 away from home. I
know another team that's done that as well.
There is another team that's done that. So they've... Well, what are you expecting for tomorrow? What are you expecting? Is it going to be a 1-0 and we'll be happy with that? Or is this a chance for us to get some goals on the board?
I'm expecting a Rangers win, but then I always expect a Rangers win. I'd like to think that we can get a few goals, but I mean, if we get a couple up at half time, I'll be quite happy for it to finish 2-0. You know, I mean, bear in mind we've got a massive game on Thursday, so I mean, I'd be all for getting out there and absolutely smashing Dundee. You know, I mean, I don't think I'll ever forgive them for losing an email or wherever the hell that email ended up. That was ridiculous. You know what I mean? I don't think I'll ever forgive them for that. You know, but. I mean, I'd love to go out there and absolutely melt them, but if we go 2 or 3 up early doors and we can make a few changes, rest a few players with Thursday in mind, that would just be absolutely ideal. But top and bottom line, if it's a last minute sclaff in off Alfie's arse for a 1-0 win, I'll take that as long as we get the 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely, especially as you mentioned with that massive game we've got coming up. Stevie, Dundee, as said, they've got all their points at home. They're undefeated at home, which early on in the season isn't much of a surprise, but that includes quite an impressive, really 2-2 draw against Hibs. If you look at it, Hibs have started the season really, really positively. So should that be a wee warning to us that they're going to be tough opposition at home, and we shouldn't look at the Celtic result, for example, too much, where they got absolutely pumped. We should maybe concentrate a wee bit more on their home form and take it as a warning.
I think the thing for tomorrow is it's a cup final for them. They've got to try everything to beat us or get a point at least. So it's the way we manage the game to get through it, because they'll be trying everything, regardless of their previous results, etc. But I expect a hard game tomorrow, definitely.
Yeah, I think, Ross, is it fair to assume that every away game is going to be hard for us, because teams, as the cup final, we're the champions now, so we've got the target on our back. We're the team that people are going to sit in against and try and grind out a result. So we just need to accept that every away game is going to be this hard?
I watched them obviously the other night. I watched the full game back, obviously against St Johnstone, and for me, we should have no problem in beating Dundee at Dens Park. You're talking about a team here who they're two up front are Paul McGowan, and over the hill Paul McGowan and Lee Griffiths. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. If you can't beat Dundee tomorrow, you don't deserve to be league champions. The fact we've been talking about it's a bomb scare, to be honest.
Was there no flair at all for the front two?
There was a flare. There was a flare. What's happening with him? Is he bad?
I don't think he's banned for tomorrow.
No, he's not. They've not had that yet. I believe he's been arrested and charged, but I don't think there's been any league sanctions yet.
Yeah. He's. I was going to mention that there is a couple of familiar faces at Dundee as well. Charlie Adam, Jason Cummins, who's their top scorer this season with 2 goals, and a certain Mr. Lee Griffiths. But the less we say about Lee Griffiths, the better. Because if he thought he was getting a title for St Johnstone fans midweek, if he plays tomorrow, it will be 10 times worse. And if he reacts like that tomorrow, he will get everything that's coming his way and deserve it, because the guy is an absolute fool.
It'll be the victim card now for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll play the victim card because he'll support tomorrow.
And your usual suspects in the mainstream media and on Twitter and on Facebook have kept very quiet about his antics. If they have commented, then he's been the victim and he was the victim of abuse. He's an absolute clown. So I hope he's prepared himself for it to be 10 times, 100 times worse tomorrow. The last time we played Dundee was at Ibrox. We beat them 4-0, goals for Kamara, Tav, Alfie and Defoe. But we've not got a great track record at Dens Park. The last time we won there, as you mentioned earlier in our group chat, it was 2016, I think it was, with goals for Kenny Miller and Harry Forrester. There's a blast from the past. So it's going to be nice we're going to win. Let's face it, we're going to win. So it's going to be nice to go up there and put that to bed as well. That we've been up there a few times and we've no won. We've drawn and we've got beat since then.
Yeah, it's not a place we've beaten them. But I mean, let's be honest, we've not been up there with a decent Rangers, a really good Rangers team since then. You know what I mean? It's a place we should have moved. We shouldn't really fear going anywhere in Scotland. I mean, Dens Park should be one of these. I mean, it's not even an intimidating stadium. They're not right on top of you like they are at Pittodrie and at Tynecastle. Their end will be far from full because they couldn't sell. They can't sell all their tickets. So it's right attitude. Well, we'll sort it out. No, it shouldn't be any problem for us at all.
Yeah, Stevie, and this is a question for everybody in the comments as well. It's a favourite thing we like to ask. It's one of the favourite things we like to ask before a game. What's your starting lineup going to be? Any surprises in there?
For the second half team against Livingston, I would only make 3 changes. That would be McGregor, Tav, and Barisic, and for McLaughlin, Patterson, and Bassett. That would be the only changes I would make.
Yep. Ross, any changes to that team? Are you quite happy with that going into tomorrow?
Controversial. I would keep Bassey's jersey. I would keep him in the team. I think Barisic hasn't been great and I think Bassey's came in and at least injected a bit of energy. And for me, if you come in and do well, then you should be looking to keep the jersey. I think that should breed right through. I know that's not what's happening now with the goalkeepers, and we're back and forward. I'd maybe like the Mora to see the 4-2-3-1. I don't think we need the 3 sitting midfielders at Dens Park. They're going to sit in. Maybe release Hagi and sitting in as a 10. Maybe even give the boy Bakuna a game in there, so you get him some minutes in his legs. So it'll be interesting. But I know who I wouldn't be playing, and that's Scott Wright.
Well, Dundee have scored in 4 games. Their last goals were that draw against Hibs that I mentioned earlier. So can we can afford to play this 4-2-3-1, can't we? We can afford to be more adventurous and really go for it tomorrow, can't we?
We'll have to be more adventurous, but I mean, tomorrow will be the same as it is against most teams in Scotland. Dundee will just come and sit in because they know we struggle to break down teams that sit in. So we have to go at them, score early, and they have to come out, and that'll give us space. I mean, we need to. I think the front 3 picks itself. The midfield could be interesting. I mean, for me, if it was me picking the team, I'd be giving Stephen Davis the day off, and I'd be putting Lundstrom in there because we really need Davis on Thursday, and we probably need him against Hibs as well. And the age he's at, I'm not asking Steve Davis to play 3 games in 8 days. So I'd probably stick Lundstrom in exactly the same reason. I would stick Simpson at centre half beside Goldson because I don't think Balogun can play 3 games in 8 days.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% about Davis. To ask him to play 3 games in 8 days is a bit much. Lundstrom, I mentioned it in our chat as well during the week. Stevie, Lundstrom had a bit of a shaky start. Are you starting to trust him a wee bit more?
I think it looks a lot. I noticed that against Leon, when Davis went off, he actually looked a lot better in that role with Davis off, and then obviously Wednesday night, I thought he played a lot better without Davis there as well. The way he pressed the team and all that, I thought it was fantastic on Wednesday night. So I think he deserves to start. Plus, Davis does need a really good break because I think he's played every single game for us so far this season up until the other night there.
Yeah.
And maybe the Dunfermline game as well. And he needs a good break, and it's time for Lundstrom to show what he can do in these games.
Yeah.
I mean, Alan, the thing with Lundstrom, he's as Stevie says, he when Davis went off against Leon, he looked really good in that position, and that's the position he played in midweek. Yeah. Now he looks as if he's made for the Davis position, but when we brought Davis back, that wasn't the position we brought him back for. He's made that position his own because that's just the way he plays now. So Lundstrom's maybe going to have to bide his time a little bit because we're not going to leave Davis out too often. But as I say, I would certainly be leaving him out tomorrow because we've got potentially harder games in the next couple of games coming up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can certainly trust Lundstrom against Dundee and keep Davis back for the bigger games, massive games that are coming up the following week. We're going to round up with predictions, but before I do, I just want to thank everybody in the comments again for coming and joining us. Everybody that's watching live, thank you. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, get us closer and closer to that 3,000 subscriptions. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and if you love the content, there's loads of content on Patreon. There's loads of nostalgic stuff. If you love nostalgic stuff like me, get over and check that out. I really recommend watching the Soonest series. I was a little bit too young to remember the Soonest days, but it certainly reminds me. It certainly reminds me of a lot of things. So get over there and check it out, please. It's £2 a month. If you do that, you're not just supporting the Rangers Rabble, but as you'll all know, regulars viewers will know, the Rangers Rabble, we are aiming to support RYDC and the Rangers Former Players Benevolent Fund. We've mentioned that a few times in podcasts. So please, if you can get over there and support us, it'd be hugely appreciated. So last thing before we go, another question to everybody in the comments as well. Let us know what you think. Ross, predictions for tomorrow. What's the scoreline going to be? Who's going to get the first goal and what's the score?
5-0. Sakala.
5-0 Sakala. Wilf?
A bit more conservative. 3-0 Calvin Bassey.
Bassey? Stevie?
2-0, Alfredo double.
Right, so we're quite confident Dundee on his scoring, right? I'm happy with that. I fancy 2-0 as well, but just to be a little bit different for Stevie, I'm going to say Yanis Hagi's going to get the first goal, just to be a wee bit different. So there you go. That's your predictions. Let us know what your predictions are. I know 3-0 Roof, Alfredo double, Big Shug 4-0 tomorrow, Hagi with the first goal. Yeah, I think everybody's in agreement. Dundee only getting a goal them on. Anyway, folks, thank you for joining us again. We really appreciate it. Keep supporting us. You've no idea, we wouldn't be here without you. And again, thank you for joining us for the 50 live broadcasts that we've had since the Rangers Rabble started. Just one last thing in subscriptions. You might have seen it on Twitter yesterday. We were aiming for 3,000 before Christmas. We are a ball-hair away for it. So please let your Rangers supporting pals know about the Rangers Rabble. Tell them to come on and give us a like, give us a follow, give us a subscription.
Talking about ball hairs, Aaron, did Martin not say he's going to shave his entire body bald on live light on this?
Right, I don't think it was the entire body, but I completely forgot that.
He told me entire. Just when you said ball hairs there, I thought to myself, Martin said he was going to shave his entire body on
when we hit 3,000.
When we hit 3,000.
3,000, yeah, right, he did. So, yeah, I don't want to watch that, but some people might. So hit the subscribe button. Let's see a bald Martin. Come on, folks. Help us to it. Folks, thanks again. I have once again forgot to pull up the outro video before we got to the end of the podcast. Martin will probably not have me on again for that, which that's his loss, not mine.
He's still got Dr. Evil.
Right, folks, thank you, and we'll see you all again soon.